I'm Bob Schieffer, and today on Face the Nation, terrorists issue a new threat against targets in the United States. The group responsible for the 2013 attack on a Kenyan mall released a new video appearing to call for attacks on American shopping malls. We'll get the latest from the head of Homeland Security, Jay Johnson, and the chairman of the Armed Services Committee, John McCain. And good morning. We welcome to the broadcast Jay Johnson, the head of the Department of Homeland Security. Mr. Secretary, let's get right to this video that came out, this Al-Shabab thing. They're an affiliate of Al-Qaeda, of course. And they appear now to be targeting some American shopping centers, or at least encouraging attacks. How seriously do you take this?
This reflects the new phase in the global terrorist threat that we've evolved to, where it's no longer core Al-Qaeda planning and operating in secret and directing operatives to come from foreign lands to a place of attack. We now have a situation where groups like ISIL, Al-Shabab, AQAP are publicly calling for individual actors to carry out attacks in their homelands. And in my judgment, that represents a totally new environment. We have to deal with it in a new and different way that involves a whole of government approach, and it involves working with state and local law enforcement, working with the community, working with community leaders to hopefully persuade people who might be inclined in this direction to turn away from violence.
Are you stepping up security or asking people to step up security at any malls?
I am confident that there will be enhanced security at the mall in Minneapolis. That is the focus of that video, seen and unseen. In response to earlier calls, we've ramped up the Federal Protective Service at federal buildings around the country. But this most recent release is emblematic of a new phase that we're in. And so doing things here in the homeland has become critical to deal with this new global terrorist threat that we face.
I guess one of the most worrisome things about this, what are there now? We now think maybe 20,000 people some way connected with ISIS, and maybe 3,000 to 4,000 of those who could come into the United States without a visa. They have passports.
Well, that's the other new thing about where we are now, this foreign fighter phenomenon that we see, which requires that we carefully track those here in the country who may be attempting to leave, who do leave. We have to carefully track their travel. The FBI does a good job of interdicting those who are attempting to leave and charging them with material support to terrorism. But there's this phenomenon of broken travel, where we see somebody going to one country, they drop off the radar, and then we go into Syria. And so working with other nations, working with our counterterrorism partners to provide collectively information about individuals of suspicion is also becoming very, very important. And we've done a lot there, but we need to do more.
Yeah, do you think, though, do we have a handle on it, or?
We have systems in place to track individuals of suspicion who are traveling internationally. There is an unknown factor. I have a reasonable degree of confidence that we know who they are, but I don't have a complete degree of confidence, so there's more work to do there.
I want to ask you about this terrorism summit that the president had last week. It turns out the director of the FBI was not invited. You just talked about how the FBI is working with you. How can you have a terrorism summit and not have the director of the FBI there?
Well, the FBI is definitely very, very active in our counterterrorism efforts. His boss, the chief law enforcement officer of the country, Eric Holder, was there.
But that's not like having the director of the FBI there. Shouldn't he have been there?
Well, the FBI, without a doubt.
I know you weren't in charge of the invitations, but shouldn't he have been there?
Well, the FBI, without a doubt, is a crucial part of our counterterrorism efforts, without a doubt.
You just heard Jay Johnson talking about the terrorism summit. Did you come away from that summit, I mean, you weren't there, but did you come away from it feeling that the United States has a strategy to fight these terrorists?
When we refused to call them what they are in the beginning, no. Look, ISIS has to be defeated first. They have to be defeated. And with all due respect to the Secretary, it's not a phenomenon, these rising ISIS and al-Qaeda threats. They're a natural outgrowth of a successful terrorist organization that is now the largest and richest and most powerful we have ever seen on earth in our history. And these other terrorist organizations imitate them because nothing succeeds like success. And we have no policy or strategy to defeat them, and that's what's terrifying about it.
You know, some of the president's critics say there's just kind of a disconnect, not just between the White House and the Pentagon or the White House and other agencies, but just kind of throughout the government. I mean, the idea that you would not invite the director of the FBI to a summit on terrorism, I mean, strikes me is sort of unusual. And then last week, there was this incident involving the Pentagon, and that is that there was a briefing given by the military on the offensive we have planned against ISIS. They went over the troop numbers. They talked about the timing. I know immediately after, you and Senator Lindsey Graham put out a statement and said, when did we start announcing things like this before they happen? Then, after you said that, then it turns out the White House says, well, nobody told us about this, basically. I guess my question is, what's going on here?
That's my question, too. And, you know, everybody knows that Mosul has to be retaken, and it has to happen first because it's the second largest city in Iraq for a whole variety of reasons. But we didn't, in shock and awe, describe how we were going to do this. This spokesperson described how, when, where, what forces, and that is obviously could put the lives of Americans as well as the people we are asking to fight in greater danger if we telegraph everything about our plans to ISIS. So I just don't get it. I don't think when we decided that we need to go to Europe and World War II that we were going to tell the Nazis exactly when, where, and how we were going to land. But it's just very unfortunate.
Do you have you heard back, I guess I would say, from the White House since you asked them what was going on? I know you and Senator Graham wrote that letter to them. Have you heard back from them?
No, we haven't, and I'm not holding my breath.